You can do what you want, just seize that day. What you doing tomorrow?
And good afternoon. Welcome to High Noon in the Heartland. Welcome to Jeffco Patriot Radio. Thanks for joining us, as always, at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tim Jones, former Speaker of your Missouri House and co-host of Jeffco Patriot Radio. I usually have my lovely and talented assistant, Billy Crow, here with me today. But, I think we've upgraded with to it. What's better than having another Tim on the show? Tim Whitney.
Yeah, the Tim and Tim. The other Tim, as you call me when I'm here most of the time.
T squared. Yeah, it's the Tim and Tim show today. Tim Whitney, who is now I always screw up your title. You're the undersheriff.
Yes, sir.
Currently the undersheriff of the county of Jefferson, and you are one of the candidates to be the next county executive.
Yeah, so exciting time for sure.
It is indeed. We have a lot to talk about, Tim, this week in Jefferson County. It is Palm Sunday. I want to wish everybody a very happy and blessed Palm Sunday, a very happy Holy Week as we're entering. And I believe, if my memory is correct, I think this is one of the years where the calendar crosses with Passover. So we want to wish a very happy Passover to our Jewish brothers and sisters as well. So if you're celebrating any of those high holy days this week, we want to hope you have a great time with family and friends. Remember the reason for the season. Lots going on in Jefferson County. Before we get to that, Tim, I understood that it was a bit of a hostile takeover last week of Jeffco Patriot Radio. It was Ladies' Day on Jeffco Patriot Radio. I heard it was a fantastic, smashing success.
Yeah, I think Susie Moore hosted, and she did a great job bringing in, leaders from around Jeffco, and that was the faith community, that was politics, it was public office, and even one of our great detectives from the sheriff's office was here. So I thought it was a great show, and, there was some sentimental value to it too, right? Councilwoman Lori Ahrens announced that she has breast cancer and will be undergoing treatment coming up. So a very good show. We learned a lot, and certainly our prayers are with Lori Ahrens as she undergoes treatment the next few weeks.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope with, we talk about some of the trepidations and fears of artificial intelligence and the advancements of science and technology. I hope with all of this that we find a cure to that horrible disease. I know I'm sure you have plenty of people in your family, in your life. I do as well. They get affected by this. It affects so many of us, will affect all of us. Most likely you live long enough. And so definitely thoughts and prayers out to her. And I'm really glad they had to have that discussion. And I was thinking today about we were going to talk about the fact that it was the women's takeover show last week. And I'll never forget when the first time I met Cecily Williams, I believe was when she was on this program a year, maybe 2 years ago at this point. She walked in, Billy Crow and I, and she's like, "There's too much testosterone in this room." And I said, "You know what? You're probably right." So, you know what? Hey, we're only as strong as many of us are, and me included, as strong as the ladies in our lives behind us. As the father of 2 daughters, happily married to my wonderful wife, Suzanne, for 20 some odd years now. She would say, "What year? What year have we been married?" I got to think. It'll be 25 years next year. So there you go. I'd do some quick math. Yeah.
No, without a doubt. And I have a 16-year-old daughter, and my wife and I have been together for over 20 years now, which is hard to believe. So it's definitely the women that keep us on task.
Indeed.
And I thought last week's show is a good reminder of the strength of the women in our community.
We will do very special stuff like that throughout this year. Of course, it's election year. We have Tuesday elections. We have municipal elections right around the corner. 9 days-ish from now or so. And they're finally here. And then as soon as we wrap up those, we'll do a final preview of that. We'll talk a little bit about that today, and then a final preview next week. And then as soon as that's all in the can and the dust settles on that, we'll start talking about August elections. Well, I bet you're counting the days down to that.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half already, so 4 more months to go.
That's wild.
And yeah, so counting the days, but we can talk a little bit later about the journey. The journey's, I've learned, as important as the destination.
Well, good. We'll talk about that. We'll emphasize that and discuss that in the third segment of the show. In the second segment of the show, we have a very special and great friend of the program. Joe Maddock is joining us.
Yeah, he's got a little breaking news for us, I hear.
Yes, he does. So you're going to want to stay and stand by for that, because we'll learn some interesting news from Joe in the second segment of the show. And lots more straight ahead. There's a lot of events, and I'll do a little State House rundown. Tim, can you believe it? We're already past the halfway point of the legislative session. I feel like Chris Arps and I were just up in the third floor rotunda doing opening day in January, and now here it is, almost the end of March.
It's hard to believe we're crossing into April already, although the weather last week, there's a few days that made you think it was June. But really, we're crossing into April, and we're through the first quarter of 2026, and that's hard to believe.
Yeah, there's only 7 weeks left in the Missouri legislative session. There's a lot of huge big ticket items that the Missouri House has passed that are now pending in the Senate. So I'll bring everybody up to speed on that. And before we get to some upcoming events that are occurring over the next few weeks in Jefferson County, there was the seating of a newly appointed county councilman for District 5.
Yeah, so there were several applicants. I believe there were 6, and they chose Tim Bennett at the end of the day to represent District 5, which is the district I live in. I've known Tim for many years. He was a former law enforcement officer. Actually played on a men's softball team years ago with Tim. So I've known him for quite some time. And so it was good to see that finally behind us because, when you have a vacant seat, for almost 2 months, as you can imagine, everybody's kind of wondering what's going to happen. So it's good to see we're there now. So
that
congratulations to Tim Bennett.
Yeah. So now that's done. And he's going to fill the remaining unexpired term, right?
Yep.
And then what happens? He has to run in August again?
Yeah, so that seat's up at the end of this year. So he's going to have a August primary. It's a crowded primary field, including him. There's 4 people in it already. I don't know that a Democrat has filed for that seat. So it sounds like August will be the election, though we got a few more days for filing. So yeah, straight ahead. So go from appointment in March to primary in August. So it's going to be quite the run.
And you just pointed out why folks need to definitely listen to every episode of Jeffco Patriot Radio from now until the August primary and then into the November general, because we have so many of these critical choices and races. And of course, your race, very important. Mm-hmm. But it's a kind of a generational turnover in a bit because there's going to be a lot of new faces, open seats, and a lot of important decisions for residents of the county of Jefferson to be making.
Yeah, without a doubt. On countywide races, you have several retirements, the county executive, the county clerk. You have a few council members. We just replaced one in District 5. The District 1 councilman, Brian Haskins, has announced his retirement at the end of this year. So there's going to be a lot of new faces in county politics. And with that becomes both challenges and opportunities. And I think we should look forward to those opportunities.
Indeed. We have opportunities for all of you all over the next few weeks coming up in the county of Jefferson. Let's see. We've got 2 events, I believe, on March 30th. So, Tim, we have a do-it-yourself painted wine glasses night at one of my favorite places, Santino's.
Who hasn't had a good bourbon at Santino's?
Indeed. So what do you know about this event? What do folks need to know?
Man, it's going to be a fun, relaxed evening where you can paint your own wine glass. We encourage everybody to grab tickets ahead of time because seating is going to be limited, but sounds like a great time. If you've ever been to Santino's, it's always a good time.
Yep, they are an advertiser of News Talk STL. Mm-hmm. Jamie Allman specifically talks about them often at the Allman Report, noon to 2, Monday through Friday here. Everything he says makes me want to go to Santino's more and more. Santino Cigars and Cocktails and Imperial. They are hosting the DIY Painted Wine Glasses Night Tuesday, March 3rd. That's this Tuesday. Can't believe that. March 31st, 7 to 9 p.m. You got a choice, though. You got something else going on that night, too. So we'll divide and conquer. We have the 2000s Trivia Night at Main and Mill. That's also this Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. Main and Mill Brewing Company in Festus. I haven't been to Main and Mill. Tell us about Main and Mill.
Oh, Main and Mill is a great spot. So Denny Foster is the owner there, and they are incredible in our community and what they do in the Festus area. But Main and Mill's got great food. They brew their own beer on tap. I'm a beer guy. I like to make beer. I like to drink beer. So
you make
Main
beer?
and Mill. Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah. I make some beer. And so it's a great spot. And I encourage anybody, if you haven't been there, you should go by. And maybe Tuesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. is a great time to try it out because you have your trivia night that night. Sounds like there's going to be some 2000s pop culture and a lot of fun. Some song lyrics, naming rom-coms, and remembering the shows everyone used to download back in the day. So
that's right.
Lots of fun.
That's right. Music, movies, TV shows, and more from 2000 to 2010. So that first decade of the 2000s still should be fresh in most of our minds, hopefully, depending on what you've done extracurricular-wise. But that'll be a great time indeed. So you've got the trivia night and the DIY Painted Wine Glasses night. Whatever, different strokes for different folks. Choose one of those and support our awesome local, independently owned, family-owned businesses right here in the county of Jefferson. And finally, coming up on, I think, Saturday, April 4th. So that's this next weekend, right?
Yeah, April 4th sounds like it's in the future, but it's this week.
It's here. This last week of March is also the first week of April. Palm Sunday into Easter Sunday. Holy Saturday, Saturday, April 4th, we've got the Jeffco Country Show. Where's that? What's that all about?
That's going to be at the Arnold Eagles, and it's going to be a packed house. The Bobby Ford band is the headliner.
Hugely popular.
Huge.
I've seen them at the Hideout before.
Yeah, I saw them at the factory one time. It was a beer tasting event. That was the first time I saw them, but at the factory. So from the factory, they're going to be at the Eagles and Arnold. It'll be a great time. They're selling VIP tables. Tickets are available. You go on Facebook to buy tickets, but Draw STL is the other band that's going to be there, and it's going to be a great night in Arnold. So I will be there, which we'll talk about in a little while, at the Eagles on Friday, April 3rd. And I'll also be there on Saturday, April 4th.
Indeed. And finally, in case folks were wondering, yes, things are still pretty wild and woolly down in the city of Festus. The Festus City Council meetings have continued to roll on this discussion on data centers. And, the one thing I want to say about this is, from everything I've seen and heard, look, people can agree to disagree about all kinds of things. I make a living out of agreeing and or disagreeing with people and debating people. Been doing it for 20 plus years as a prosecutor, as a litigator, as Speaker of the House, as a radio show guy. But Tim, we've got to be agreeable when we're disagreeing with people. And I'm hearing a lot of things that make me sad about how people are treating each other regarding the fact that we're talking about building a data center. Folks need to know, a data center is a brick building that has servers inside. I could show you the data center here at News Talk STL. It's our server room, so I think people need to maybe step back, take a deep breath on all this. Number one, no matter where you are on this issue.
Man, we're talking public policy at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
We're talking public policy. The same thing you did at the Capitol, the same thing that happens in county and city councils across this country. And the crowds, I think this last one sounded like it was pretty contentious. At one point, it sounded like two men actually were shoving at one point and had to be separated. And they were there the rest of the night. But man, we can't resort to violence over an issue. Emotions are good, right? Emotions what impacts government. Emotions are, many ways what drives us towards seeking and achieving the goals we want. But emotions are bad when they lead to violence. And for whatever reason, these data centers, whether it's in Festus, whether it's in Franklin County or St. Charles County, it seems like they bring out the worst in people sometimes in their emotions.
Yeah, let's have discussions. And if we're going to disagree, let's be agreeable about our disagreements. Let's be civil about it. Someone was hitting up our Jeffco Patriot Radio Facebook page, which always tends to get a lot of attention, which I love. And there was a lady on there that commented, I have no idea who she is. And she was like, who's this Tim Jones guy? What's he doing down here in Jefferson County? And why is he such a rhino on these data center issues? First of all, I'm like, I don't know that you can put a partisan label on favoring or not favoring a data center. It seems like an odd label to make, because if I'm being called a rhino, then you got to call Donald Trump a rhino. President Trump, and I'll be in Donald Trump's company anytime and be proud of it. A year ago, Tim, Donald Trump signed a presidential executive order streamlining the process for data centers to be built all across this country, because he knows that if we don't build them, the communist Chinese will. And Donald Trump wants America and Americans to continue to be the leaders on data center and artificial intelligence development. If we're going to continue to be the leaders of the free world, we better. Secondarily, about a month ago, he had a 2-hour meeting in the Oval Office with a lot of the big tech heads, Oracle and Meta and Google and such and so forth. And he made them sign a pledge. He's like, hey, look, I'm a big data center guy, but you guys are going to pay for this stuff. And see, that's where I come down. I don't believe that you should put data centers just anywhere and everywhere, and they should destroy whatever stability you have as to your electrical usage or your water usage. And what Donald Trump said to these folks was, and see, this is why he's a problem solver, right? He didn't just say, do whatever you want with your data centers. He said, we need data centers, but if you folks are going to build them, you're going to make sure that you provide for the electrical and water usage so you don't hurt the consumers and you don't hurt the taxpayers in that area, you don't hurt the constituents. And so that's my position. It's the same as Trump's. And if I'm a rhino for that, then I guess you can rhino at me all day. But I think that's a weird label to put a partisan label on something where you're talking about the development of a technology.
And the president was so steadfast in acknowledging just what you talked about that he actually brought up in his State of the Union address.
That's right. He talked about it then too.
In the State of the Union address, because he is that committed to getting these done from a national security standpoint. So, sometimes it's good to follow the lead.
Mm-hmm. We have to always continue to be the America that we've always been, a land of entrepreneurs, of ingenuity, of inventors, of creators. And if we don't lead the charge on artificial intelligence and data centers, then countries that want to eat our lunch, like communist China and others, will. And so I'm not saying that they just should be put anywhere and everywhere with no thought as to electrical usage and or water, but you have to acknowledge that we need to own this technology here so somebody else doesn't elsewhere.
We lead the world in many areas, and we need to lead here as well.
We do indeed. All right, that's my speaker soapbox for today. When we come back, we're going to shift gears a bit and talk to Joe Maddock, learn what his breaking news might be. You're going to want to stand by for that when Tim Whitney and I return here on this Sunday's edition, this Palm Sunday edition of Jeffco Patriot Radio, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey, Jefferson County, this is Vivek Malik, State Treasurer, and you are listening to Jeffco Patriot Radio on 101.9 News Talk STL. Now back to Billy and Tim.
Welcome back to Jeffco Patriot Radio. I'm Tim Jones, former Speaker of your Missouri House. I'm joined this week by my intrepid co-host, Tim Whitney. He is the current undersheriff of the County of Jefferson Sheriff's Department. He is a candidate for county executive because the current county executive, Dennis Gannon, if you hadn't heard, he is retiring at the end of this year. He's going to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, Dennis is going to be riding off. And so about a year and a half ago, I announced I was running for county executive.
Was it a year and a half ago?
It's been a year and a half. It was October of 2024 when I first announced. And that was after a lunch with County Executive Gannon. And we discussed, if he was going to retire or not, because, I didn't want to come out and announce my candidacy knowing he was going to retire if he wasn't ready to announce that. So, you want to make sure that he was in a good place for that too. And we have a great working relationship. So that happened. But it sounds like today we might have somebody announcing for their candidacy for an office. And it's the breaking news for this segment.
If we didn't have enough races already occurring in Jefferson County, we got another one to bring to you today here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL, streaming worldwide on our News Talk STL app and newstalkstl.com. So, Joe Maddock, I know you're ready to unveil this news for the entire planet. But first of all, as we build up to that, for folks who may not have met you in the county of Jefferson yet or heard you yet on the show, I think you've been on the show a few times. Reintroduce yourself to our massive, vast, wide listening audience.
Yeah, Joe Maddock, currently serving as the president of the Jefferson County Republican Club. This is my fourth year serving in that role. I was born in Jefferson County, grew up, and then whenever it was time for my family to start, my wife and I looked at each other, and she's not from around here, so I go, we're moving back to Jefferson County, sweetheart. And at one point I told her, hey, I'm going to start getting involved in the county. I'm going to start getting involved locally. And it just kind of took off. And now we have 5 kids. And the weird thing about me, and I jokingly told my wife, doesn't matter how great we do, we could have a highway named after us. The thing people are going to remember us about is the fact that we have 2 sets of twins.
Yes.
I have 5-year-old twins and I have 7-month-old twins.
You and Elon Musk repopulating the planet.
Hey, good conservative babies is what I was told to do. Go forth and be fruitful.
Fantastic. Tim, you want to ask him about what he's got coming up next?
Yeah. So what are you here to announce today? We've kind of tipped it. We said that there is a special announcement today. So what is that special announcement?
Well, today on Jeffco Patriot Radio, I am announcing my candidacy for Jefferson County Circuit Clerk. So unfortunately, the announcement, it's not as friendly as the announcement that you had with Dennis. You went and sat and had lunch. This is going to be a little bit different style race, I think. But I think it's important, and now's the time to make
it's much different
action.
Whenever you're, taking on an incumbent in a primary than whenever you're having that conversation with somebody who's planning on their retirement. So much different conversation. So you said circuit clerk. We've had people on the show before that are running for county clerk.
Right.
Can you tell us the difference between the circuit clerk's job and a county clerk's job?
Completely different things. Clerk in its base is an administrative position. So that's where you hear the county clerk handles a lot of the election. That's kind of the main thing, but there's number of other services that they overlook. Now, circuit clerk, that is associated with the circuit court. So big part there is just administering what's happening inside the court. So anything related to fees, anything related to the processing of documents, all very, very important things. We have our sheriff's office come out, take care of the bad guys. Our great prosecuting attorney, who I don't believe has a challenger, so I can almost say our prosecuting attorney continued.
We have 2 days left.
We have a couple days left. Yes,
Trish is a great prosecutor.
Trish is a great prosecuting attorney. She puts the bad guys away. We want to make sure that the court is there, has all the documents filed properly, and keeps those bad guys. Make sure there's no technicalities that allows them to get off. Then the other thing is we go to the courthouse for a number of different things. Whether it's it could just be a mundane thing that we have to go through retitling something. There's a number of different things that we go. We want to make sure that we have a friendly face there as well, and somebody who's out in the community that cares about the community.
So two very different positions in what they do. County clerk dealing mainly with Jefferson County official government business. Circuit clerk dealing with the business of the court system and everything related there too. Criminal, civil, the administrative stuff, as you mentioned. Joe, I want to back up just for a second. We'll get into why you decided to run for that particular position. You're still a relatively young guy. You've obviously started a family. You're doing very well there on those. We're going to give you high marks for that. Why did you decide to get into politics at this stage of your life in general? Running the Republican Club and now running for putting your name on the dotted line and running for office. I think it draws you to politics.
It's a little bit of an illness. No, I'm kidding.
We would all agree with that. Yeah.
Part of this is you start out just trying to be civically engaged, and whenever Trump came onto the scene, I was in my mid-20s. Of course, a lot of people my age started getting involved. We saw what the media was doing to people. And I thought, okay, that's all well and good that we're handling things at the federal level. Trump is really starting to fight back. But what's happening locally? Because so much more about our daily lives is handled at the local level. And I just started talking to any politician that would show up to anything, or any politician's aide that would show up to anything. I'd go up and start a conversation. And I was so fortunate to meet a handful of great people. The couple that come to mind would be E.J. Fleischman and Dan Shaw. They were Dan was my representative at the time. And I just said, hey, I want to get involved. What can I do? And they started inviting me to things. And the more that I just got to know people, I don't know if part of it was I volunteered and nobody else volunteered, or if there was just something about the passion that I have that made some people say, you know what, I think you're the right guy for the job for the Republican Club. And honestly, kind of similar thing happened here, where enough people will continue to reach out to you. I know if I can make the joke about how Jeffco Patriot Radio, thought that I might be running for county council. And it's because my name has been popping up all over the place. I did run for state representative, and I was not successful in that run. But since then, my name pops up at a lot of different things. It's kind of the worst kept secrets, I think, to steal your line from earlier. And so it's just a matter of figuring out what's the right thing for my family at this time, and what I feel like I can have the biggest effect and the biggest change in a positive way for Jefferson County and the people of it.
So you're saying there's rumor in politics?
That's pretty much all we do.
That's breaking. That's breaking news as well here today. Yes,
it's a good thing we have shows like this to set the record
clear
straight.
All the air. Yes, exactly.
So we touched on it a minute ago, and the difference between running in a race in which it's going to be a vacant seat versus that against an incumbent, and an incumbent run is much more difficult. Why did you choose to run this race, and why you over the incumbent?
Yeah. The big reason why I chose to run it, and this is part of why it took me so long to make an announcement, is because initially I wasn't intending to. I do have a family. I have a business. I was not intending on getting involved in a race, but people continued to come to me and say, we have a problem. Their opinion was that we have a problem right now in one of these positions. And they kept coming to me looking for somebody. And every time I would go to talk to somebody who was interested in it, the conversation ended up coming back to me. And I'm reminded of Marcus Aurelius, and I think you and I spoke about this when we first met as well. We don't want people that are eager to take a position because of power, or because they want to do something. It's the politicians that are slow to make decisions. I know you thought about your decision for a very long time before making your announcement. This was very deliberate for me as well. It was a long conversation with my wife, but it was not a decision taken lightly. So one of the main reason why, and I'll sum it up into one word, based on what I've heard coming out of that office, the one word is integrity. I think we have a lot of questions. I've heard some on this show about the person currently holding that seat. And this is one of the hardest parts of my job, or any politician's job, because you don't want to go and smear somebody, talk badly about somebody. That's not what we're here for. But at a certain point, whenever you keep hearing stories over and over and over, and they're similar stories, and you're seeing evidence coming through of things that you wouldn't want from any politician, especially one that is in control of the court, the docket, the documents, that starts to bring, you have to do something. Someone has to do something. And as I said, enough people, I think, came to me that I said, I'll entertain this. And then the family, we prayed on it. We talked to each other and decided this was the right time.
So for those unfamiliar with what the circuit clerk's office does and some of the issues that you've just brought up, if you were elected, what changes would you make in, say, the first 100 days or so? We'll do the 100-day rule here, like a lot of the big-time politicians talk about when they get elected. What would you do in that first 100 days to make improvements, changes, updates to the circuit clerk's office?
Well, first and foremost, we have to get solid management in there. Somebody who's willing to listen to the people that are in that office. Somebody that's not going to be dictating, putting edicts. This kind of sounds silly, but a big part of this is you have a great team there. A big part of this is managing those people, making sure that they feel like they're taken care of, making sure that they feel like they're protected, because ultimately they're the ones that are handling the day to day. So that's one big aspect of this. I think we could do more from this position as well, getting out in the community and trying to solve our courthouse problem. I know the jail is a big issue, but I'm not hearing any talk. There's no advocacy coming from leaders like our current circuit clerk to start affecting these changes, start raising money, start raising awareness to the issues that we're having. So those are some of the things, I'll say some of this just comes down to having a cleaner personal life, not having things that are going on in the background. I would show up on a daily basis. I've heard the rumors. I've seen the evidence that there are long stretches of time that this person shows up 20% of the time. That's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable to go work 2-3 other jobs while trying to say that you're running this position and just not showing up on a daily basis. That's not what a manager does. That's not what somebody in any political position should be doing.
I once had somebody tell me in politics, what does qualifications have to do with it, right? When it comes down to voters. And it's a very cynical way of looking at it. But I really do believe, especially in primary politics, voters are very educated when they get to the polls in most instances. So what qualifications do you have that uniquely, put you in a position for this race?
Well, again, management being one thing. And aside from the fact that I have 5 children, which is helpful. I do run a business currently. I've run businesses pretty much all my life, ever since I was in my early 20s. Actually, funny enough, teams very similar in size and makeup to the one in the current circuit clerk's office. And my business, and I've mentioned that on this show a couple of times, is in health insurance, specifically employee benefits. Now, is that directly related to courthouse proceeding? No, but it is highly correlated with legal. There's tons of compliance that we're dealing with. We have to make sure that everything is handled properly under lock and key. And then also just the relationships that I'm handling on a day-to-day basis right now. All of my clients, these are business owners. These are people that are highly educated in their crafts, and I'm working with their employees. Well, the way I kind of translate that is the circuit clerk does have work with the judges. That is a highly specialized task where these people need to feel confident in their courthouse. Then you also have the attorneys. Now, we need to make sure that we have confidence between the judges, between the court, between the people staffing the courthouse in order to make this entire system work. Because otherwise you start, again, having those little technical errors that could cause bad people to end up on the streets. And that's not what we want.
Joe, sounds like you put a lot of thought into this about what you would do and how you would do it. in the remaining minute or so we have here to wrap up, and we'll have to definitely have you back on as we march towards August. Where can folks learn more about you, the campaign, and your position on all these important public policy issues?
Well, we were talking about this earlier too. Facebook is kind of the go-to in Jefferson County, so you can find my information. That's Joe Maddock. Joe Maddock for Circuit Clerk. It's on Facebook, and then my website, maddockforjeffco.com. Sorry, it's new. maddockforjeffco.com. That's where you can find all the information on me and my race.
Fantastic. That's Joe Maddock. He is a newly announced candidate for Circuit Clerk. That race will be likely decided in August, the August primary. I've been saying it for years. That's really where the rubber meets the road now, largely in the state of Missouri. Joe, we'll have you back to talk about this race and so much more in the near future.
Tim. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Indeed.
Tim squared.
Tim, and Joe. We'll be back with Tim Whitney. We're going to talk about his race, what's going on at the Sheriff's Department, what's going on with crime, law and order, and the future of Jefferson County. All that up next on a very special Palm Sunday edition of Jeffco Patriot Radio, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones here, former Missouri House Speaker and now Chief Cat Herder for the Missouri Freedom Caucus. You know, when we're taking on the rhino establishment swamp in Jefferson City, we always know that our gavels are bigger than theirs, but sometimes it calls for even greater firepower. Yeah, America! Welcome back to the third and final segment of Jeffco Patriot Radio. You're listening to us, of course, at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. We're here every Sunday beginning at high noon. Right after this program, we shift north. We go up to St. Charles for St. Charles Patriot Radio. That's immediately following this program. Every Sunday, they start at 1 p.m. We got one final segment left. We're going to talk to my co-host for the week. We're going to interview him now. He's going to tell us all what's going on in various aspects of his life. Oh, and by the way, if you missed the first two segments, you missed a lot. We talked events coming up. We talked data centers. Of course, that's what we're doing these days in Jefferson County. We talked a lot about a little bit of a state house rundown. Oh, I got to get back to that as well. Some state house races and more. If you missed any of that, everything's podcasted. Wherever you get podcasts, go to newstalkstl.com. as well. And, you know, Tim, before we get to you, filing. We mentioned filing closing in 48 hours or so.
That's about it.
As long as there's no shenanigans, because what people don't realize, or maybe not know, is that if somebody withdraws on people used to play a lot of games with that back in the day. So if somebody withdraws on the last day of filing, that actually reopens the filing window for that seat for a certain period of time. I can't remember if it's another 48 hours or 72 hours or so, but it reopens that seat. So filing may completely close at 5 p.m. this Tuesday.
It's always the first day and the last day, and the last day is coming.
Yep, the last day is always interesting as well. So there are 6 state representatives that have representation of Jefferson County. And as it sits today, and this could change tomorrow, Phil Amato running for re-election, currently unopposed, as far as I know, right? As far as you know. Cecily Williams, same story there. David Castile does have a primary opponent, David Robertson.
Yes.
So you got to choose between the Davids there. We have Ann Maloney running against, is it Broach?
Broach.
Okay.
Yes.
First, I don't know. The first
David
name.
Broach.
David Broach. So Ann Maloney and David Broach. And do you remember what seat is that? Is that one of the open?
That's 114. That was Ken Waller's
seat. Okay,
Yeah.
so this will be the Kenny Waller successor. And then we have Ed Callahan, who I believe is running unopposed.
Unopposed.
And what seat was that?
That is Renee Reuter's current seat.
Right. And then Bill Lucas, who's an incumbent, and he is running for re-election, currently unopposed. So 6. We have 2 primaries. The rest so far uncontested for the primary. But next week, we may be telling you a different story, depending on what happens between now and Tuesday. Finally, before we get to what's going on in Tim Whitney land, I want to tell you that in the State House, we have 7 weeks left. So we're entering the 7th to the last week of session. So we have I have 7 more trips to Jefferson City where I go up and work on a ton of state government affairs stuff. 3 huge bills, actually 4 huge bills that were passed from the House to the Senate, and the Senate is waiting to take action on them. They've started moving some of these through the committee process. We have the Born Alive Act, which I know is very important to most folks in Jefferson County, because Jefferson County is known as a very pro-life county.
Yes.
We have the Tabor bill, a taxpayer bill of rights bill. That is Representative Jim Murphy's bill from South St. Louis County. We have Ben Keithley's REINS Act. That's an acronym for reining in the bureaucracy, giving legislative oversight more over the agencies. And then the big kahuna, the big income tax phase down, a hopefully eventual elimination bill. That's pending in the Senate as well. Lots of big ticket stuff. A big criminal justice bill was passed before the legislature went on spring break. Our good friend, State Senator Nick Schroer, I think he runs about 4 or 5 shows here as well. He helped the governor get that big priority. Were you involved or engaged in that bill?
No,
Were
I
you
wasn't
watching
engaged in that bill whatsoever. Some different senators will reach out at different times. David Gregory had reached out earlier this year. Nick has reached out to me in the past on bills. On this bill, no, it seemed like things were going so well and forward that they didn't need...
They move fast.
Didn't need me to step up and come testify in favor of it.
Well, let's get to you now. Is there any sheriff stuff that you're aware of that is kind of open question in Jefferson City that you're watching as we roll through the rest of the session?
No, most of it relates to, taxation. There was some, a bill earlier about, eliminating sales tax on groceries, which sounds like a great concept, but a department like, ours that is sales tax dependent in terms of our primary revenue, that could really, hurt us and defund our department in many ways along with other departments. So we were watching that, but nothing else out there is really concerning. I get all the fiscal notes in my email to respond to on behalf of our organization. And the first thing I do when I see something that's concerning is I look to see who filed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because over time,
tell a lot about the sponsor.
you know what bills are going to have legs, which aren't, based on who files them. And that sounds like a horrible way to look at things. But then you also go to Jeff City, and the sheriff and I both make our trips out there, and we have those conversations. So we understand what legislation we need to pay attention to and which ones we don't. So I think we're in pretty good shape right now.
Been listening to Sheriff Marshak for years, mainly making appearances with Tony Colombo on our station. Always enjoy those interviews. I've enjoyed your interviews as well. So tell us, what's the state of affairs in the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department these days?
Doing well. I think the things I get asked most about are our capital improvement projects, the most significant being the crime lab. The building is 99.9% done.
Oh,
the
really?
Staff is hired. We hired our lab director from the West Coast, and we hired a DNA expert from the East Coast, and everybody else in between. And so staffing's in place, and now we have scientific validations, accreditation, all those hoops you jump through before you can be a lab. So we're right on target, right on pace. We're really excited to be where we're at. It's my understanding we're one of only 2 lab startups in the entire nation. Oh. And when this is done and we get through, again, validations and accreditation late this year, we are really going to be the tip of the spear in terms of technology and drug chemistry and DNA analysis. And that's a really exciting place for our community to be in. So really excited about that. The other one that's been in the news, we're getting ready to go out to RFQ for a proposal to look at building an indoor firearms range.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we had a range that was in use. It was owned by the city of Hillsborough for decades and decades and decades. Eventually, it just wasn't practical anymore because you build neighborhoods around it. People don't want to hear the noise. And so Hillsborough had to close that range, which pushed everybody to a range in DeSoto. Same issues there. So really, our county and a county of our size, we need an indoor range. And that's how you tackle the issues that are presented in a community that has 230,000 people that are concerned about noise and those things. And so this isn't going to just tackle an issue for the sheriff's office. It's really going to be countywide for all the police departments because all police departments are in the exact same position. So we're looking at that. Goes out to RFQ very soon. And then we look forward to getting that project done. And we've gotten these projects done largely through, smart finance, smart budgeting, being very conservative in our budget, our revenue estimates, very liberal in our cost estimates. So at the end of the year, we were able to take those overages and plan for future capital improvement projects without asking the taxpayer to fund more. So really excited to get these things done, really positioning our department and our community from a law enforcement perspective for the future. Not just today. We're trying to do things to where this is a problem that's tackled for a couple of generations to come.
Regarding the lab, would you explain why it's so important for a county like Jefferson County to have its own lab? Why is that important to the proper administration of law enforcement and justice?
Well, not having your own lab, you're reliant on the Missouri State Highway Patrol's lab, and they are handling cases for 110 counties. So you can imagine the number of cases that come in. And because of that, they have to have some really stringent prioritization. So under most circumstances, they cannot test DNA on property crimes. So if your home is burglarized, we may have evidence that may help us get you justice, but they simply can't test it because they're having to prioritize cases in which crimes are committed against people. And so if you're a victim, if you live in Jefferson County, we have an incredibly safe community, one of the safest communities, not only in the state, but the nation. The chances of you being the victim of a random violent crime is really few and far between. So more likely to be a victim of something like a burglary or a more common thing like that. So the thing you're more likely to be victimized by were the things that we had the less opportunity to get the evidence to get you justice. With our own lab, our own DNA, we're going to be able to prioritize that. We are going to test DNA on property crimes. And this is going to enhance us and really push us across that goal line to being one of the toughest places in the entire St. Louis region, the entire state of Missouri, and the entire nation to get away with crime.
Speaking of that, of crime in general, the conversation, unfortunately, we saw some incidences over the last few weeks regarding criminal activity being committed by illegal immigrants and some horrific crimes affecting some very young people, young adults who will not see any more days on this earth. And they're very sad and they're very tragic. And I remember listening to either you and or Sheriff Marshak talk about how, even here in the middle of the country, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the last administration made every state and every county and every state a border state and a border county. What is the situation regarding the criminal illegal alien element in Jefferson County? Have you seen that change with this administration? Have things gotten better? Are you still having to take care of certain incidences? What is the state of affairs on that?
Those crimes still exist and they're going to exist for some time. The Biden administration's policies that largely, had completely open borders is going to be something that's going to impact us for years to come. And so we see it. What we're not seeing is, bus loads of migrants being dropped off in our community, which is something we'd experienced in the past. So we're not seeing those large scale things, but people can at times still be the victim of somebody who's here as an illegal immigrant. So I don't want to say we don't have the problem. It's very minimal, but I don't know that it's going to be completely solved for years and years and years because of the scope of the problem that was created under the prior administration. All
right, let's talk about a little happier thing. Maybe it's happy. I don't know. I don't know how the campaign trail has been for you, but you seem to be enjoying it.
It's great.
You're running for county executive, and Chris Howard is another announced opponent. Has anyone else announced?
There's a third candidate.
Oh, there is. Okay,
you'll have to forgive me. I don't remember his name. The first name is John. I don't remember the last name.
We got 3 candidates in the race,
and then
as of today,
a Democrat filed as well. So it's a 4-person race, 3 Republicans and a Democrat. But in Jeffco, we really focus on the primary in our county.
How's the race going?
It's going great. I touched on it earlier. I think, when you first run for office, you think about the destination, which is the win. It's the victory. But the journey for me has been something was completely unexpected. I've had the opportunity because I was running to meet so many groups doing incredible things in the county. And then, I've been able to attach them to people they didn't have attachments to and to help them further their missions and those things. And from a perspective, we never understand truly our mission in life, but this has really opened my eyes to this is part of it, right? It's not just about the win in August, which we're going to get. And we're going to push for. It has also been about the journey. So I have no complaints about campaigning. You hear all the horror stories and it's stressful at its moments, but you also have to look at the positive things that come out of it.
So you have your policy positions and you have the things that you want to accomplish and you have the things that you're telling people that you're going to work on. But it sounds like you've also learned a lot from listening and speaking with other folks along the way.
You do, because you meet so many people. My wife jokes with me. If I'm at home on an evening, she's like, why are you here? You're supposed to be somewhere, because I'm always somewhere doing something.
Indeed.
And you really have to be engaged in your community. And that's something I've really worked hard to do. But you meet so many people that you wouldn't otherwise get to meet. And along the way, it's incredibly powerful. So you hear their stories, you hear their pain points, you hear their concerns, and then you talk through what that looks like in terms of solutions. So It's been incredibly powerful. And I know one thing that I do want to touch on, and we need to touch on, is this Friday,
Yes.
April 3rd.
The next event coming up.
It's our big campaign rally. We're expecting a large crowd. It's April 3rd at the Arnold Eagles. Doors will open at 6 p.m. However, if you were a listener of Jeffco Patriot Radio, there is a VIP hour that starts at 5 p.m. If you hop on Facebook, you can still get tickets. There's a limited number of tickets available. So I encourage you to hop on there. It's going to be a great night. We're going to share our vision of Jefferson County. There's going to be some live music, some raffles. And one of the things we're even live auctioning is an authenticated signature from President Donald J. Trump.
Oh, hey there.
So we're going to have some fun.
You just got a few thousand more participants perhaps in that. And Tim, finally, before we wrap up, where can folks find out more about you, learn more about the campaign?
It is on Facebook at Whitney for Executive. It's certainly on our website at Whitney for Executive, and then it's everywhere. As I said, I'm a traveling show. You find yourself when you're running for office at everywhere. You're at parties, you're at campaign events, you name it. So sure, I'll have the opportunity to meet most people at some point.
Indeed. Well, you did a fine job today. I'm not sure I'm letting Billy Crow back in the studio. I don't know. I'll have to see. He may have to do another job application or something. Thanks for stepping in, co-hosting.
Thanks for having me.
Always love speaking with you and having you by my side. And that is Tim Whitney. He is the current undersheriff running for county executive. I'm Tim Jones, former Speaker of your Missouri House. And we'll be back next Sunday at high noon with another exciting episode of Jeffco Patriot Radio. St. Charles Patriot Radio up next. So you're going to want to keep it right here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime,
Everywhere.
anywhere.